So everyone, this session is going to be really exciting because we're going to address some questions that every business owner, wants to know, which is how do I increase demand or how do I capture the growing demand, as we've seen in the first session where Atul spoke about, how supply and demand are both increasing, but now with supply increasing more, I think it becomes even more competitive. It becomes a more competitive market. So Dhanik and Caroline are going to talk to us through that. And then once you have captured that demand, you're going to want to streamline your operations so that you're able to service everyone effectively. And then when it comes to serving everyone effectively, you're going to want to give a great guest experience so that you get good reviews and more repeat business. So that's what we're going to cover in the next 30 to 35 minutes. And then we'll have 5 minutes for a Q&A at the very end. So I'll just shut it now. And I'd love for Dhanik and Caroline to introduce themselves, and then we'll hop into the panel questions.
First, would like to start by thanking all of you to be here. My name is Dhanik, and I work out of Mumbai office. I represent Booking.com Pan India to our alternative accommodation partners. Been with Booking for a little over 10 years already. But it's just been 5 years that I've been really involved in alternative accommodation. And besides that, I also get to represent Booking.com to our core partners in West India and the beautiful Nepal. I'm really passionate about supporting our partners and helping them grow and grow together with them.
So hi everyone, I'm Caroline and I've been managing the Blue Kite for about 5-6 years now. And we manage about 250 properties, mainly in Goa, a little bit in the Himalayas and in Delhi. And we are a team of about 110 people, mostly based out of Goa, a little bit out of Delhi. And I think it's really great that you guys are creating a community of people interested in learning about short-term rental, which we've been kind of looking elsewhere in the world to get information, but there's nothing enough going on in India.
So let's get into it, right? Dhanik, Booking.com, everyone knows about it. So my first question to you is going to be, from your perspective, how can property managers tap into the demand and maximize their visibility on Booking.com and other platforms like Booking.com?
Thanks, Srija, for the question. And for everyone, I would like to sort of break it down into a few different elements, actually. And would like to begin by saying that, like all platforms, everyone has some unique features and strengths. And some of our best practice that we always encourage all our partners to adapt to is, one is quality content and highlighting all the facilities, services, and features that they can on the extranet. And we, I believe, have the most extensive one to highlight as many detailed features and services that you can. And then we support partners to break it down between property level to a room level. There are elements which are on cost. There are elements which are free of cost. You get to do those distinction as well. Second one is we have certain very good visibility products, and they are really gated and is on eligibility criteria. And eligibility criteria are purely performance based. It's not about the size of the business that we do together. So everyone stands to win provided they are operating professionally and are getting very good reviews. This guarantees them very good visibility and listings ranking. Now, the other one is, of course, consistency in how you come across daily to your customers, and that is represented by the review scores, right? And I can tell you as a statistics, right? Like review scores are among the top 3 topics that are considered by a booker when they're deciding on what property to book.
And you called out ranking, which is, I'm sure, something that's really top of mind for a lot of owners, hosts, everyone. Is there something that people can do to improve their ranking within Booking.com search?
First of all, it's very important to understand ranking because it means different on different online agencies now, travel agencies. Ours is very dynamic, and which means that you may not see yourself on the first rank and the first page, but you still can have the maximum or the most number of visitors clicking on your property page. And so we have a dashboard on the analytics called the ranking dashboard, and it tells you how much, how often are your properties coming up in search results. Of that, how many times people are clicking on your property page. From that, how many times are your properties getting booked. And then these are like preferred and genius are one or two levers that property has access to play around with to boost their visibility. But besides that, we always go back first to our foundations, and there are some topics like, say, consistent availability, good reviews, proper content, 100% content score, which is a metric, but you will always still have scope to do better quality of content, and you can keep acing at it and keep it updated. Like if your pool is broken or it's being taken down for maintenance, you update that so that you're setting the right expectation every time someone is researching the market, right, for what property to book. So these are some of the examples.
And I'm going to use one of the other things that you said to segue into a question for Caroline. You mentioned reviews as being one of the things that, of course, is super important. It also apparently on booking.com unlocks features for people that are listing on Booking. So when it comes to reviews, Caroline, what is it that, I know we'll dive into a lot of different things through this panel, but off the top of your head, what is it that people need to do to get great reviews?
And the way we think about it is to make sure that we understand the guest needs at the time of the reservation, and we set the expectations right. So there is no way you're going to put, a picture that looks better on booking.com because the angle makes the pool look bigger. That's just a recipe for disaster. And so setting the expectations right, having realistic pictures about what your property really looks like, not overcommit, we might be able to give you a check-in, be very upfront, like, actually, we can only tell you at that stage. And so if the expectations are right from the start, that's number one. Number two is, while the guest is staying, make sure we always resolve their problem. There are things that might get out of your control, there is a power outage. Like, there's really not much one can do if the whole city is down. But making sure that, I tell my guest relationship manager that, imagine your old uncle is coming to visit in Goa. What would you do? Like, what are the lengths to which you would go to make sure that he leaves Goa super happy and he knows that you've done your best? And so making sure that every time a guest leaves, we know that the guest, the stay has been positive and the interaction has remained cordial until the end. Because getting that one bad review is just not worth that 1 or 2 night booking. And finally, it's culture. In every team meeting, talking about the reviews, making sure that the incentive systems is based on it, and your growth in the organization is built on that. And so if somebody, who started as a housekeeping supervisor can grow as a guest relationship manager, managing a team of 10 caretaker, we will always look at, how many reviews did he get over how many stays and what was the average rating? How did he respond to a problem that came up? And so all of this cultural element really is what shape your reviews in the long run.
That's very, very insightful, Caroline. Thank you so much. Also, if I got my uncle to Goa, I think he just needs a fish thali. So maybe what's the best fish thali in Goa? And but yeah. So you spoke about culture, which is making sure that basically we're taking care of housekeeping, caretaking, we're resolving guests' issues as soon as possible. So there is a lot of operational excellence that goes on behind being able to provide this, especially as you scale. So from a property management's perspective, what do you think are the most critical operational challenges that operators face, or people that are listening that are trying to become an operator, like a property manager? What are the challenges they might face, and what are some of the things that they can do to address these, especially as they scale up?
So I see really two things that come up while scaling is your consistency of inventory quality and your consistency in handling guests and homeowners. And there are really two things you can do to resolve this. And the first one is tech and processes. So build every process and every time you build tech for your company, make sure you think of what you don't need today, but what you'll need 3-4 years down the line. And so whenever we build anything or we set up a process with a teammate or we think of a new unit we want to add, we think, okay, if I had to do this for 1,000 units, would it be humanly possible to do it how we're doing it right now, considering human error and time involved? Is it a value added job? Is it taking time away from our guests and our homeowners? And so process and tech are really key here in order to scale. Back to the culture and reward system. You can, as you scale, and it was easy for me when I had 2-3 people reporting into me, every problem would come to me and together we would find a solution. Now I have, people like at site, I have about, 90 people. I cannot micromanage and they need to come up with the best solution for the guest. And so whenever we've tried to build reporting and, ask detailed questions and make them fill up things, it's just been a recipe for, like, we've exhausted ourselves. Whereas if you create a culture where, every manager in every region or every building, and you give him a P&L and you say, you know what, this is your home. You can decide the price. You can meet your homeowner. You meet your guest. You decide what services you want to offer. At the end, your ratings have to be good and your P&L has to be positive. That sense of freedom of experimentation means that you can scale faster because people act like it's their business. And then there's internal promotion. So if you can show that there is trajectory in your company to grow, if things are being managed properly, and it's fast, if you can show that, every year somebody can get a new responsibility because they've shown that they can get the reviews, get the P&L positive, recruit other team members, that internal promotion, feeds into that culture of responsibility. And finally, the incentive system. So we actually give our GRMs and GRE a bonus at the end of every month based on the percentage of reviews they get and the ratings. And so for me, I guess as a business owner, it's not about resolving issues anymore. It's about building processes, systems, and all the human elements of your company that will make people want to be engaged and feel responsible for the business.
I think some of those things that you said, Caroline, about empowering the team to build their decisions, I think these are things that have global applicability whenever someone's building their own teams. So I think that's a great point over there. Moving on from here, you spoke about ratings being good, and you spoke about using processes and questioning whether that process can scale to 1,000 units. So I want to ask both of you right now, which is a question about guest experience and ratings. So what would you say are some of the best practices that successful property managers can do, or you've seen them do, or from your experience, Caroline, you have done that ensure a consistent and high quality guest experience? I think the guest experience maybe starts right from the beginning, like you've said, at setting expectations. So maybe we can start with you, Dhanik, and then I'll come to you, Caroline.
Sure, Frija. I think we all will agree here in the room that by human nature, people will go out of the way to summarize their critical experience rather than their positive ones. I think first and foremost, the challenge is to get people to share their experience, right, and create that user-generated content. One of the best practices that we have is we have some tools to communicate with guests directly, and it's a lot of automation that we've brought in there. So say before the stay, during the stay, and even after the stay, you can create messaging templates, which Booking.com system personalizes it. Booking.com is a sender, but it's sent as through the host, by the host, addressing it in as friendly or as personalized way as the property or the host chooses to. You can put any content you want. Before or just at the time of booking, we can say thank you for choosing us, and we're really looking forward to. You can recommend some packages and extra deals that you'd like to cross-sell and upsell to them. During the stay, if it's a multiple length of stay, a message can be created to be auto-sent, representing the owner or the host that, I am available if you want to give us any feedback. And vice versa, after the stay, thanking them and again encouraging them to write a review. Besides this, to make them feel very good about the stay throughout the time, a lot of elements of the stay and basic questions that we have learned over the years that customers want clarity on could be simple questions like, do you have a specific, like a baby crib, or do you have a smoking room, or is smoking allowed, or do you have parking? A lot of these questions we have now provisioned for hosts to update it as a feature. And those questions are automatically replied by Booking.com instantly. This gives a booker a very good experience, even pre-stay, saying that these folks are really professional and very prompt in replying. They're already forming a positive perception. Second one is, again, I'll come back to content, and especially for alternative accommodation, it's less transactional that you will see with core hotels, and it's very personal. People spend a lot of time to read, see, and then decide. So be very true to your property description, facilities, and services, non-negotiable. You get that wrong, you can expect critical reviews. And the third is post receiving reviews. Sometimes we don't get it right. Sometimes the expectations of your customers may not be matching or justified. Also, you can say, use that feedback, even negative, as an opportunity to learn, continuously improve, acknowledge it by replying on that review so that your acknowledgement is displayed on the front end of booking.com and maybe any other platform, right, for other customers to see. We are only humans, and if we don't get it right once, it's nice to acknowledge and say, okay, what steps are we taking to improve? Like, these are some of the best practice that we really recommend our partners.
Yes.
Yes, now it works. I wasn't able to unmute. Okay. Over to you, Caroline, to talk about guest experience and what operators can do.
Yes, I mean, I've covered a few points already, like the pre-arrival, setting expectation, making sure your listing is not an oversell of what it is, making sure it's really translating the reality, being consistent within the stay with communication. Like what we face a lot at the beginning when we have a new guest relationship manager is say, well, I did the check-in, everything was fine. He didn't say anything, and then he left a bad review. And I'm like, well, but did you ask? Did you proactively go and meet the guest several times and say, I really aim to have a 5-star from the onset. So if during your stay, there's anything that you feel doesn't make this experience a 5-star, let me know so I can address it while you're here and I'm here and we can resolve it. So I think this not constant communication, obviously it depends on the guest, and that's really about training to get those cues, but being consistent with communication. And then as Danik said, when you get a bad review, it's okay. It happens. There, sometimes things go wrong. But what do we do so that this very problem doesn't ever occur again? And if we need to block the unit to change a mattress, or if we, need to upgrade the guest while he's staying because there is no genset and he's with a baby and the baby is hot, or I don't know, that one bad review is just not worth it. And so you might be losing money on 1 or 2 bookings, but overall you need your brand to be consistent with the ratings. And then I think it's really about that human touch. And is it to fill in your check-in forms and all of that, or it's actually to take care of your guests? That element of culture and training and reward system and growth in the organization, all of it has to be centered around the guest experience and the guest reviews.
So I'm curious to hear your take on this, Caroline. So I think with hotels, people are used to receiving certain amenities in the shower, maybe like a kettle and some tea and stuff like that. Now, with a short-term rental, those amenities can be wildly different. I remember I was staying in a property at Goa one time, and they offered a homemade plum cake, and it was just such a nice gesture. So what do you think? How do you think operators should think about these sort of additional knickknacks, when it comes to creating a great guest experience? And I'd love for you to also comment on how to think about those, and also the added cost and operations that come with providing these sorts of additional bits. Oh, I thought you was just listening really intently. And then what I'll do in the meantime is just move to Dhanik for a follow-up question that I had. So Dhanik, what's your take on handling false negative feedback for operators? So things that, like a disgruntled guest has said, because a lot of times feedback can also index a lot more on the negative.
Internet outage are even more a problem in France than in India. I left you at the plum cake.
No, so I just moved on to a question for Dhanik. So maybe we can just get that and then we'll come to you.
Right. So Srija, and for everyone here again, handling critical reviews. I think I would compliment what Caroline said. Kind of accept it and acknowledge it. We do have as a platform, we try as much and we want to be really fair. So there are provisions of capturing some proof of how probably a guest is misbehaving. But a lot of time we go by our customers' experience and how they choose to narrate that in the review space. So besides really replying to the guest review, explaining post side of the story, and as far as they meet the criteria that are set by booking.com, like not to make it personal, make personal attacks or really getting emotional about it, etc. There are guidance, 4 or 5 points that we have to adhere. We do let partner side of the story to be displayed for others to see.
So, Karen, coming back to the question about the plum cake. So, I think my question was, how would you encourage operators to think about these kinds of additional amenities in terms of what they bring, what benefits they bring versus, of course, the costs and the operations involved?
You need to have soap, you need to have shampoo, and you need to have body lotion, and you need to have something for people to be able to clean the kitchen if they need to. We want to be a sustainable company, and what we saw when we were doing fridge stock and offering lots of things is a lot of things ended up in the bin. We've decided that, we will have things available if guests need a shaving kit or a toothbrush, but we will not automatically put it in because otherwise it just creates a lot of waste, and it's not the sort of thing we want to do. However, we have a discretionary budget, and if a family is coming with children and have kids, and we feel like, oh, they didn't bring any floaties, so here the guest manager has the option to offer something that will be meaningful and change the guest stay. We don't think the random thing that you give systematically that is the same for everyone actually make a big difference to the guest. It's the personalized attention that can really make a difference. Your birthday cake, if it's your birthday trip or something like that. And so I think you need to have the basics, and it needs to be available for the guest, but proactively, giving a lot of freebies that end up in the bin, I don't think as an operator is a responsible way of driving the business forward.
I love that approach that you've taken. You have to have something available, but decide if you want to give it to everybody or not. So I'm going to use that to go into the next question, which is, every guest is different. They're going to have different expectations, especially I think in a country as diverse as India, where cultural differences also play a big part in how guests perceive their experience at a property. I'd like to understand if you think that there could be a framework that operators could create to standardize that quality of the guest experience.
You have different guests, different purchasing power, and you have different expectations from this guest. And as a rental operator, you need to decide if you're a platform, for instance, you're a Mintra, and you offer different things under different buckets, and you create different sub-brands within your company. Or if you're a brand with a much narrower definition of your value proposition. At the Blue Kite, for instance, what we have decided is that all our homes should be new or feel like new. This is something that we have, and this is something we want to maintain. We have a very standard set of amenities and inventory, exactly the same everywhere, from the number of forks to the quality of the linen. The training of the teammates and processes are similar everywhere. That is what we've decided to do right now. But what you could do if you wanted to address different segments in the markets, because obviously with what we do, we don't cater every guest. Some guests cannot afford the Blue Kite, and for some guests, they might want something else. The way of addressing this is to have different sub-brands within your brand and to address those different customer needs with different selection criteria for your homes and different service.
I love the fact that you said that all your homes should feel like new, because that's exactly the kind of experience I think that, at least the higher tier hotels have gotten us used to. And so then when people move from that segment to a short-term rental, they might expect this.
One is at a OTA level, at a website level, to standardize, right? We have an in-house inbuilt quality rating system. Think of it as 1 star to 5 star. The system determines, depending on certain services and facilities that every listing has selected as they offer. And then it also considers the guest review scores and the quality, the review ratings. So that way, the rating system is also dynamic, and it complements properties who are really providing very good service to their customers consistently. Right, so that's one way of standardizing. Then you are in maybe any part of the country versus you comparing a property in France, for example. If you provide the same sort of amenities and facilities in the room plus in the property, you will be 4-star or 5-star accordingly in both the places. Then second is at a property level, we have something called bulk action module. It's a tool on the extranet where especially big partners with multiple properties can manage a lot of the elements of their listing from one single page. Example, if you want to update policies or change your cancellation policy for the approaching high demand period, you want to enable free breakfast across your brand, you can do that simply by that. So that helps you come across in a more standard manner, irrespective of where your listings are. What additionally we do is we have some feature wherein for new partners, right, at least on our platform, we source reviews from external websites. So if the property does not have any history on booking.com, and like I said, it's less transactional, it's very personal. There's a lot of trust that is required for a customer to make a decision and book your properties. So we source external reviews using technology and our strategic tie-ups with biggest of the brands globally. And then otherwise, we have Travelers Review Award, where any property with a review score of 8 and above are at the end of the year given a certificate which they can demonstrate to establish trust amongst the traveler community. There are some of the ways we support partners in establishing quality, trust, and gain repeat business.
There's a lot of I think customizations that I see that Booking offers for people as they're scaling, right? So let's come to that topic. We've spoken intensively about guest experience. Let's chat about scaling up and becoming a larger operator from a smaller operator. What advice would you have for smaller operators who are starting to think about, maybe you could answer this from a point of view of maybe technology adoption, or how do you think they should work with OTAs, or any other perspective you'd like to share?
India, is a top 5 priority markets globally for booking.com. There's a lot of focus and investments that are built with keeping India first in mind, connecting to what Srija mentioned around adopting to technology. We had some great partners here, how Saffron say shared their experience, right? I think it's always encouraged to, especially when you're scaling and you're growing in size, technology is your friend, makes your life easy, brings standardization. I mentioned about quality rating system, so that again gives you a benchmark, and it also is a AI driven tool, so it actually recommends that, okay, your listing got categorized as say a 3-star, and if you bring a tea making service in the room like a kettle, and you add that as a service, and maybe 1 or 2 more elements, maybe 1 more option of different pillow, you can be categorized as a 4-star. So it really gives you that guidance of what's lacking for you to be represented even better on these platforms. So you should adopt to this. We have verified guest reviews. Besides that, we provide very detailed analytics on 8 to 10 different parameters like breakfast, cleanliness, service, the service team, basically, right? Value for money. Now, that's not very tangible, right? It gives you a very good idea of how your customers are perceiving the whole experience. And that gives you some guidance of how you can improve your service, and that hopefully will help you grow, help us grow together. That's the aim. These are few of the top points that I would recommend for partners to focus on. Like extranet of booking.com will give you a lot of market insights as well, something connecting to what Atul shared in the first 45 minutes, right? You get market demand data, meaning you can already understand for your markets, and especially the bigger markets, like say a Goa or a Manali, which is very big with vacation rental. You can see what's happening in the next 14 days and compare that with what happened in the past 14 days. You get an idea if the demand is peaking or it is sort of going down. That can guide you to adjust your pricing strategy. How well you use it will help you stand out amongst the crowd. So again, use technology as much as you have access to it.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Tanik. Caroline, while you were away, we were just transitioning over from talking about guest experience to talking about how operators can scale up. So to you as a actual operator that has scaled up, actually, I think the question I have for you is, if you could go back and correct something, if you could start all over again, or if someone's starting from scratch, what is something that they should avoid? So what's something that you wish you hadn't done, or if you've seen some mistakes that they've committed when they're scaling up, what would some of those be?
When you try to scale, you have this temptation sometimes of signing unprofitable deals. A homeowner is not willing to give you a property unless, you give him this, that guarantee, or you say, it will be only non-veg guest, or, I'm giving an extreme, or only veg guest. Have a very simple and transparent relationship with the homeowner and not sign deals that we know will not be profitable. Like if the unit economics in one place or in your portfolio it's not making sense in terms of occupancy, pricing strategy, marketing. If you haven't cracked it, don't scale because you're just scaling a problem. Signing only homes where the homeowner will win. That's number one. The guest will win and you will also win. Otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense. Being super transparent to the homeowner about what is possible, what you can guarantee and what you cannot guarantee. Because managing misaligned expectation over time, it might work for a year. But eventually the homeowner is giving us something, one of his most precious things, his home. And so we need to make sure that the relationship is super transparent. And I think actually at the Blue Kite, this is something we've done quite well. We've never, we have hardly any churn. This is, I think, the base of the business, making sure that you are profitable and you are scaling in the right way with very transparent communication with your homeowners. Building the tech today of what you will need in 3 years, because otherwise you're always playing catch up. And I think in tech, it took us a while to get to the right stage. And I don't even think we're perfect today. I mean, it's never perfect, but not try to customize everything. There are things that exist off the shelf, like dynamic pricing. If you try to build all these things, you're taking your focus away from the guest and the homeowner. And we as operator, our job is to do that. And so use what exists top of the market, off the shelf, build what is really essential, what makes a difference for your brand. But the rest try to use what exists. And finally, it's building a culture of responsibility, making sure everybody in the company knows your mission, what is important to grow in the company. That culture of responsibility, having the right to make mistake, learn from it, and then grow is essential in terms of building forward, scaling.
All right. On that note of building forward, as we come to the end of this panel, I have just two more questions for you. Let's get into the first one, which is, Caroline, you mentioned that staying ahead of the trends, thinking about what's coming up in the next 3 years or 4 years or whatever, and then trying to sort of build towards that. So my question to both of you is, what are some of these trends that you, Caroline, and Hanik, you at Booking.com, you're sitting at a vantage point where you're probably able to see some of these trends. So would love for our audience to be able to learn of these trends that they should be aware of, to set themselves up for success over the next few years. So if you could share maybe a couple of things that you're seeing, that would be great.
Do you want to start?
I can go, Carly. You've been speaking, so yeah, please take a break. Yes, I'll go now. Yes, Shrija. I think I saved one very important news that we are all very excited to share towards the end. I think what we are doing right. One is we are launching payment in India. We're already starting the test phase in this quarter. And all our partners can expect us reaching out to them in the next quarter. So October, November, December months. Right. So that's the biggest and the most awaited sort of rollout in terms of supporting the market. I think everyone will agree about this. What's up? What next for short-term rentals, right? So we already have 30 different accommodation types besides hotels and resorts. And we are expanding on that further and are always at a global level, right? Already looking to add more different and unique property type to provide more curated experience for our travelers. In India, I can already say we have 15 different accommodation types that we cater to. We are constantly innovating and improving our platform. There's a lot of A/B testing going on, meaning 50% of the audience experience the platform differently at any given point in time for up to 1,000 experience running simultaneously. We are using AI already in two different and the most impactful way. One is we summarize properties, description, and services differently to different customers. So the property is the same. But for example, if I'm a business traveler or historically, I've been looking for good gymnasium and free breakfast and free internet, then these properties are prioritized first for me, and their descriptions are changed in a way that appeals to me to help me decide quickly. And the second element is your guest reviews, right? As a host, if you have 50 different free text reviews accumulated over 2 years, and consistently some reviews are speaking about your amazing jacuzzi in the room, it will tailor make that guest review summary for me because I'm a guest who has historically also looked for or prefer a room with jacuzzi, as an example, right? And then think about a villa in Lonavala with a pool and a barbecue. You have these features and service, and I free text type this for my search. It will identify only those set of villas and prioritize this in the results for me. This is some other example of what's coming next for us in the OTA space, right? And something else that I see, which is also exciting, is operators are adopting to tools, online check-in and check-out. There's dynamic pricing. We, of course, spoke about this today throughout. You have automated messaging that I mentioned about. There are contactless experiences that a lot of our partners are adopting to. And we are building our platform to enable our partners to provide that experience to our mutual customers. There are some of the innovations and space where the company is spending their time and resources. And yeah.
Sounds really exciting, Tanik. Thank you so much for taking us through that. And finally, over to you, Caroline.
Yeah, so I see two trends in the market. One of them, and I think it's the most important one, is the rise of hyper personalization and added services. The reason guests will go for alternative accommodation is because they can celebrate a milestone birthday with their favorite theme color, the cake that they want, and something that hotels might find it very difficult to do or not in a private space. And I think guests in India really expect to be wowed, and this is what we're committed to give them. And I think any successful operator will have to be able to answer, all those guest demand and needs. And for us, it's what we're driving the business. Like, this is our goal for this year. We've decided we want every customer that leaves to be wowed. So whatever it takes, this is our goal right now. The other trend that I see is a lot more tech to give guests a seamless experience. And I think to simplify the jobs that we do internally that don't really add values to the guest. You helping your writing of descriptions of listings with AI, or helping the reservation team answer things faster by assisting them with the right information at the right time. For the teammate at site, having everything on an app where they can check in the guest, take the picture of the ID proof, do the check-in automatically. Automatically it goes to the Goa tourism department. All of that automation that makes the life of the people who work at site, who are supposed to take care of the guest, much more seamless. I don't think, I think in Europe, there's a lot of, IoT being developed, smart locking system and all these things. I don't think it makes really that much sense in India right now. It's more enabling the people to do things faster. Yeah, and I think for us, we've had we're still having a really good run in Goa. We're opening a lot of new inventory. And we've opened Delhi, and I think we've been able to apply the successful learnings we had in the leisure market into a more city framework. And so we're opening Bangalore and Pune this year. I think what has really taken us to these places is to be consistent with reviews. And, we've had 4.85 plus. And actually, my priority for this year is to beat that. But I think really the key is very simple, is to do the job well. And the job is to make the guest and the homeowner happy.
There's a question which is, as we go into higher price segments, levels of service tend to get compared to 5-star hotels at similar price points, which proves to be a logistical challenge. What would you recommend be the best way to bridge that? Okay.
Yeah, you're charging more, so you need to offer more services. And of course, having scale helps because then you can purchase better, you can train better, you can recruit more easily. But I think it's a logical thing. The more you go into the luxury segment, the more they will expect the same amenities as a hotel would offer and the same kind of service. Actually, we're here to serve the customer, and if the customer expect that, we have to offer that.
Anything you want to add on this, Anik?
I would agree to Caroline what she said, but also price again is subjective. So yeah, if you are matching the deliverables to the price that you're quoting, you will have maybe few edge cases where a customer may feel it's not good value for money. So it's hopefully it's not as frequently, and if it is the case, then probably something to introspect in terms of your pricing strategy.
And the next thing is actually a request for booking.com, which is from Akash. As a boutique homestay hosting 90 plus families in 9 months, 80 to 90% of our bookings come via Airbnb due to their GST collection on behalf of hosts. Requesting booking.com to offer the same as it eases compliance and would support small property owners. So, any
So
comments on that?
feedback point taken. We are working on it. I guess even now with payments being rolled out, partners will have to provide the invoice to the customers. So maybe that is the next topic that we should pick up. I'm taking that feedback back to my team.
Okay, thank you so much, Dhanik and Caroline, for joining in.